Part 100. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 995. The material used to make the Setsuna paper box completely shattered after being consumed for the first time. However, Garen imitated the structure of this material within the school and created a similar closed device, which he also named Setsuna paper box. This time the things can be continuously manufactured, but the cost of one is very scary and cannot be used casually. Over the years, he has only accumulated 2 cartons. The remaining materials are insufficient and the cost is too high. Can give up. And unlike the previous Setsuna paper box, the endurance limit of this paper box is much smaller, and it can only severely damage a 5th level energy master. If the original version before, it can completely destroy a 5th level apex energy master in a single blow. Even the resonance level can be severely damaged, and it can also fight against the inheritance level. Pity. Lying on the back of the giant blue wolf at high speed, Garen let out a breath. 1 person and 1 wolf rushed towards the base of the red snow sect at high speed. In the eyes of many local mutated creatures, they could only see a blue line fleetingly, without causing any shock at all. On the way, Garen met a group of Chixu disciples who were about to go out to purchase items. These people praised the power of the march group they had just seen. As expected of senior brother Yu, this method of transmitting sound from 1,000 meters has surpassed the previous senior brother's ability to capture objects from 100 meters away. Perhaps it won't be long before senior brother is promoted to Sangzan, and senior brother Yu may be promoted to number 1. It's in place. But among the 2 heart peak masters, only the eldest brother has the best heart. When challenged, he will never get slightly injured, unlike the others, who will always be seriously injured or secretly injured. It will be great when we can be as successful as them. A few young low-level energy masters discussed with longing. They are all local talents who have just been selected in the genre. After many selections and many assessments and tests, I was finally able to enter one of the 3 major sects in the state, such as the Red Snow sect, and I felt a strong sense of pride in my heart. He is only 12 or 13 years old. Among the top 10 peak masters of the 2 hearts, I heard that only 3 of them were not trained locally. One is the peak master Anjaitna of the Snow Peak, the peak master Jialong of the Black Wolf Peak, and the other is Yiling. Peak master. I wonder how these 2 compare to senior brothers. The situation at that level is not very clear, but I know from a senior sister that the master of Huaxia Peak is rank 2nd, and his strength is very terrifying. He has been here for more than 60 years, and he should have been ranked 1st a long time ago, but it seems there is some secret that no elder is willing to accept him. Apart from him, the rest of the talents received by the central government were at least 2-hearted disciples in the school, and there were also many 3-hearted disciples. They unified an organization called Xingpai. Opposite to Yuhui, the organization of our local disciples. As for Peak Master Garen, he was originally a genius with good qualifications when he was picked up, but he didn't expect that the time to break through to level 4 took a long time. Although this comparison is much faster than that of ordinary 2-hearted disciples, it is not like the top talent qualifications are relatively only ranked outside the top 10. Perry's attitude towards him is said to be somewhat uncertain. The situation of Master Yiling is the most mysterious, and there is very little news from the outside. A little girl who was relatively well informed said softly. Whoosh! In an instant, a blue line flashed past several people, bringing with it gusts of cold wind. What? Is it the wind? It's so cold. A group of disciples were unaware. Only the little girl was vaguely aware of it, but she was not sure of her guess. Garen was far away and could hear the conversation of this group of people. This was the first time he heard these people talking about him. He had never known what he was in the eyes of many subordinate members. Such an image. When he first started, Perry always took his attitude very seriously, but now that so many years have passed, things seem to have changed. He himself didn't know what the speed of a real top genius was, but he shouldn't be too inferior. He went from level 3 to level 4 in 5 years, so he probably wouldn't disappoint the people in the faction too much. Now is not the time to think about this, March is already ahead, we must speed up. Guessing in his mind, Garen slapped the giant blue wolf, and his speed suddenly increased, actually increasing a lot again. Ahead is the sub-base visible in the distance. March and his group were flying in the sky at a constant speed, stepping on the flying board, neither too fast nor too slowly. Senior brother Yu, among the thousands of disciples in the outer circle, you may be the one who will truly ascend to the throne in the near future. I would like to congratulate you in advance. A strong bald man standing side by side with March was also stepping on the flying board and complimenting her unabashedly. Since you are here, junior brother, it seems that Yu Hui has approved my application. Yu's face was indifferent with a faint smile. This is natural. Senior brother Yu is ranked 3rd, and he is also at the top level among thousands of external disciples. Entering Yu Hui is a sure thing. I just heard that among the few new disciples who joined in the past few years, there are a lot of powerful characters, the strong man said in a low voice. The power of Xingpai is already strong enough. A few years ago, if we hadn't suffered heavy losses due to a fierce battle with Longian's people, we might not have been able to seize the opportunity. What does the higher up mean? Sanyu remained silent and asked directly through voice transmission. He vaguely guessed Yu Hui's plan above. The strong man glanced at the other people around him, and everyone consciously used their consciousness to close their hearing and disperse to the side. When no one came close, he slowly transmitted the message. After all, Xingpai is not purely a local energy weapon master from our Hosumai prefecture. They have always wanted to rush back to the failed central city. Among them, the second elder is the leader. The first elder and the third elder are very dissatisfied with the second elder. We must do it's very simple, try to block the news about the non-native disciples below as much as possible. Is this going too far? Yu Rao was so brave that he was a little frightened at this time. This was a heritage level game. If he wasn't careful, he wouldn't even know how he died. If you get involved rashly, once you are discovered, it will not be as simple as being expelled from the sect. Don't worry, the people in Xingpai are arrogant and regard our obstruction as training for the disciples below. The strong man sneered, they simply let it go. As long as it is allowed by the rules, even if they kill a few of them, they will only think that the disciples below are too weak, and cannot even survive the predatory situation within the sect, and they will only be trash when they go out. They are too crazy. It can be seen that the strong man is also extremely dissatisfied with the Xingpai people. Sure enough, Yu couldn't help but feel a little unhappy. At this point, no one would think that he was not good enough. At this stage, there are unlimited possibilities for the future. You are in a high position and are away from the bottom. This is usually a time when your ambitions are as high as the sky. In this case, when you hear someone treating yourself as a whetstone, you will almost certainly feel dissatisfied. No one thinks that he or she will be inferior to others. Even if the qualification test reaches the limit, so what? The limit is so easy to climb, but too many people die on the way. In that case, I accept this task. Yu pondered for a moment and nodded in a low voice. There are currently only 3 non-native peak masters in the faction, Yiling, and G. Turner, and Garen, who came in a few years ago. You just need to pay attention to these 3 people, the strong man reminded. I have noticed the combination of Yiling and Joey a long time ago. These 2 guys seem to be hiding something. I have suppressed them many times and they can still endure it. There must be a secret, Yu said with a gloomy expression. It's up to you to decide how to deal with it. I'm just passing on the words. If things accidentally get bigger, we, Yu Huiting, will be there for you. You don't have to worry, the strong man said in a message. Yes, I understand. March's face returned to calmness. Just as a few people in the sky were talking through the sound transmission, between the mountains and forests below, a blue shadow rushed towards the gate of the sub-base very quickly and covertly. The speed was extremely fast, and it was actually a lot faster than the people flying in the sky. The people above were all focused on the conversation between the two in March, but they did not pay attention to the blue shadow below. In front of the gate at the top of the branch base mountain range, the white base gate flashed with fierce and dazzling current, and the blue current formed a water curtain-like electric door to block all energy mechanics who tried to enter. A group of newcomers were being led by a captain toward the gate. The captain had just taken out a white nameplate and shot a white light right at the gate. What you see now is the gate of the logistics sub-base. This gate is formed by connecting the power supply with a huge voltage of 1 million volts. It has undergone special processing technology. Once an energy mechanic who is not the crystal mark of our sect approaches, it will automatic attack and ejection. The safety factor is very high. The captain is a gentle and elegant young man. At this time, he is smiling and introducing the situation here to the new disciples. He has the mark of a second heart disciple on his shoulder. In the branch base, there are many second heart disciples like him who do tasks and accumulate resources. Most of them take on various tasks of the genre to accumulate points in exchange for resources. The number of Erkson disciples is not too many, but it is still quite a lot. Their rankings will be automatically changed according to their level. Those who are above level 4 will automatically enter the top 30, and the rest are below level 4. Most of these third-level second minds grow extremely slowly, and it often takes more than 10 or decades to reach the 4th level. But it is the backbone of the Chixu section. They are truly the normal disciple situation in Hosumai province. For those geniuses who can advance to the 1st level within 10 years, although they are not very eye-catching, their huge number of groups does support the middle and lower classes of the entire Red Snow sect. Leading newcomers, testing, and assessment, between the two major organizations of Xingpai and Yuehui, there are more discrete energy masters. This group of people is the largest. They gather at the mission hall every day and continue to receive missions and accumulate. After accumulating enough resources for a period of time, they then practice hard behind closed doors, and the cycle starts over and over again. This is also the main way of life for mediocre mechanics. Whoosh! A blue line flew over at high speed, landed in front of the switch, and turned into a blue figure. This is a combination of one person riding a huge blue wolf. The hair on the giant wolf's body is as straight as thorns, and it looks extremely sharp. Just by looking at its appearance, you can tell that it is not an ordinary character. The appearance of one person and one wolf immediately caused the newcomers to scream in exclamation. The captain who led the team immediately shrank his pupils slightly when he saw Garen. It turns out to be Master Jialong Peak. Senior brother Jialong must have just returned from participating in the Ghost Mothership test. Please keep your voice down and don't mess with him. This man is one of the most popular inheritance-level geniuses in recent years. At Erkson Peak it is also one of the top 20 among the masters. Ranked in the top 20, a younger girl asked in a low voice, unconvinced, "What does that mean? Sooner or later I will be able to get there." "Stop talking nonsense," the captain glared at her. The top 20 in the rankings all represent geniuses who have the potential to enter the inheritance level. They are all elites who were welcomed by the elders' three-hearted disciples when they first entered. They are not comparable to you low-level energy masters who have not even entered the second heart. They are all at the core of genre cultivation. As soon as he finished speaking, Garen turned over and strode towards the electric door. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 996. Garen glanced at the group of people. Seeing so many people, if they were allowed to go in first, the people behind would definitely catch up. To check the qualifications of the electric gates, you can only enter in order one by one. There are 4 electric gates in total. He specially selected one with fewer people. He didn't expect there to be so many people. Get out of the way, he snorted coldly, waved his hand, and suddenly a blast of cold wind blew so hard that the team became unsteady, and some even rolled to the ground. It was too late and he couldn't care so much. Brutally smashing through the people who were blocking him, Garen's figure accompanied by the giant blue wolf rushed straight towards the electric gate. The white light on his body flashed away and passed the electric gate scan. A group of more than 10 people were suddenly overwhelmed by the gallon. Some people's luggage and baggage were also scattered all over the floor, and some of the weak ones were even shivering from the cold. Senior brother Jialong, don't you think you are too domineering? The young man leading the team couldn't help but stand up and stand in front of Jialong. Get out. Garen could already faintly feel the strong force field aura of March and his group behind him, approaching at high speed. With a wave of his hand, Qi Shuigong reached the 5th level of cold air and suddenly burst out, rushing straight towards the man in front of him. It was better for him to hold back his strength, otherwise the full force explosion would probably kill someone. The white cold air turned into a cold current of gas, rushing towards the young man from all directions, instantly wrapping him up in it. The escaping chill also directly shook away the low-level energy masters in the surrounding team. The young man exerted all his strength on the 6th level of red snow technique, stepped on it hard, and the rocks under his feet shattered. A pale white cold current suddenly erupted from his whole body, and he faced Galen's cold air head-on. Call. The two cold currents offset each other and dispersed. The young man's face changed slightly, and he barely blocked the cold air. But he had to take a few steps back and was forced to give way to the path forward. Garen, one man and one wolf, rushed towards the electric gate. It would be troublesome if March and others caught up. Yu Yu's strength is at the top level in the two hearts. It is impossible for Joey and Yi Ling to defeat him. Garen thinks that he is far from his opponent. Only by joining a school can you have the confidence to not be afraid of the March oppression. If you don't give me an explanation, don't even think about leaving today. Unexpectedly, the young man suddenly took action and hit Garen on the back with all his strength. This guy actually hides his strength. The real level is actually the 7th level of Qixuyagong. The cold air is even mixed with some inexplicable rancid smell, which obviously contains poison. I told you to get out of here. Garen waved his backhand, mentioned the 7th level of red snow kung fu again, and hit him hard with his palm. Bang! The two of them were facing each other, and Garen jumped towards the electric door. Unexpectedly, the young man refused to let go and quickly caught up with him. The nameplate in his hand shot out a beam of extremely fast white light and merged into the electric door. Access permission is temporarily closed, please reactivate. An electronic sound sounded. After closing the gate access, if Garen wants to go in, he must wait for another 2 seconds for the mark on himself to reactivate. Senior brother Garen, I hurt my junior brother for no apparent reason. Isn't it too much to leave without giving an explanation? The young man actually raised his voice and shouted loudly. The sound spread far and wide. You wanna die? Garen was immediately furious, and the 8th level of red snow kung fu suddenly exploded, hitting the young man with a palm in the air. Countless white cold air lingered around the palm, condensing the water vapor in the air to form snowflakes falling down. This time there was no resistance. The young man used the Qixia kung fu all over his body, but was still directly attacked by countless cold air and defeated. Boom! With a muffled sound, the young man flew backwards, spitting blood, and shot into the mangrove forest on the slope below. Is it too much for the person who hurt me, Yu Hui, to leave like this? At this moment, a white light suddenly shot down from the sky, fell to the ground and turned slowly, revealing a strong middle man. A big old man. With the same words, the man was covered in white air, and the moment he fell, a strong white cold current rushed straight into Garen. The cold current passed over the grass on the ground, and all the green grass was withered and covered with white frost. The soil was black, and there was a faint stench. Garen snorted coldly, and led Blue Wolf into the electric door first. There was only a slight gap, and the stinking cold air behind him was immediately blocked by the electric door. Puff! The stench and cold air directly collided with the current, collapsing and disappearing. Garen turned back and looked through the electric door at the strong man outside. "Who are you? You are still distracted at such an old age. I really don't know if your age is like a dog or something. It doesn't matter if you have a bright mouth. If you dare to come out and fight Brother Yunda head on, I won't pursue the matter this time." Following closely behind was March and his group. Sanyu stared at Garen inside the switch with a cold face. He ordered Yiling and the others to stop this man. Unexpectedly, this guy ran back early. "I'll hit you if you tell me to, so why should I listen to you?" Garen chuckled. "If you want to find a base in the future, you'd better listen to me." Yu smiled cruelly. He also knew a lot of ways to avoid surveillance. "Are you threatening me?" Garen grinned. For him, Yu is just a roadblock that he must solve sooner or later. "How's it going? Do you dare to take it?" March raised her head slightly and sneered. "See you on the decisive battle stage in 1 month." Garen chuckled, turned around, said a word, and strode away into the distance. For some reason, he vaguely felt the inexplicable aura on his body, and the causal power similar to fate seemed to be getting stronger. 1 month, the strong man licked his lips. "Regardless of life or death on the decisive battle stage, you are the one seeking death." March and the others also followed and entered the electric gate. As for the injured young man, only the low-level energy masters he led still cared about him and went to help him out. Among the onlookers, a young boy with white hair reaching his waist calmly looked at what was happening in front of him. Is this Naga planet? A world where the weak eat the strong? A world completely different from the Four-Ring Star Alliance? Cruel and overbearing? Will I have to live in this kind of place from now on? He secretly clenched his fists, thinking of his cursed brother, his half-petrified sister, and his family trapped in hell. I will definitely change my destiny. A trace of pale fluorescence suddenly flashed in his eyes. The Jidong family will not fail in my hands. Ignoring the injured leader, he strode towards the switch. The switch that had been temporarily opened had previously scanned his identity and he passed directly. The edge of the distant starry sky. A giant white old man floats quietly in the space universe. Surrounded by 5 huge black holes rotating at the same time, the terrifying traction force tears and absorbs all the surrounding light. No instrument can observe the scene in the middle of the black hole. The old man closed his eyes slightly, stretched out his right hand, and gently touched the void in front of him. The child of destiny has already set off for the Red King. Everything depends on your arrangements. Back then the old man slowly opened his eyes. There were countless colorful streams of light in his pupils, like a rotating kaleidoscope, with countless stars shining brightly. With a snap, 3 screens suddenly appeared in front of the old man. What was revealed on the left screen was the white-haired boy biting his lips on a certain star. His skin was pale, and his whole body was soaked in amber-colored viscous liquid, as if he was suffering from huge pain and oppression. The second one is the Four-Ring Star Alliance, the second son of the Extreme Winter family. The old man turned his attention to the second screen. It was pitch black up there. Then it's my successor's turn. The old man stretched out his hand, and the second screen suddenly lit up. Countless mountains, rivers, and grassland scenery flashed by above. In less than a few seconds, the screen stopped at a leisurely farm. A gentle girl sitting in the sunshine and quietly reading a book in her hand appeared in the center of the screen. Snapped. The girl closed the book in her hand and stood up, her white dress rising slightly in the wind. At the same time, in the radiation belt of the Mother Star, the number 7 ruins, which had been sealed for several years, finally started to move again. The center of the originally gray, black, and dilapidated ruins suddenly began to ripple. In an instant, a faint white light lit up in the middle of the ripples. The white light is getting brighter and brighter. Boom. There was a violent loud noise, and white light rose into the sky and penetrated the sky. The terrifying beam of light was straight and slender, penetrating the clouds, penetrating the atmosphere, rushing directly out of the mother star, and shooting far into the depths of the distant universe. The speed of the beam was extremely terrifying. In just a few seconds, it traveled tens of thousands of light years, surpassed all speeds of light, and hit the surface of a blue planet in a distant galaxy. In the dark universe, a slender, straight white beam of light is like a sharp needle, penetrating directly from the mother star to this distant blue planet. The beam penetrated the atmosphere and exploded directly down at a terrifying speed. Boom! The white light fell directly into a dilapidated ruins between Kaki Mountains. There was no earth-shattering brilliance, it just lasted for a moment, and a red meteor fell from the sky. With a buzzing sound, the invisible terrifying shockwave created a terrifying crater between the huge ruins. In the deepest part of the crater, a crimson humanoid mecha squatted on the ground, surrounded by countless hot red magma and black cigarette. The humanoid red mecha was dozens of meters tall with a long red spiked tail trailing behind it, making it extremely ferocious. Click. The mecha slowly stood up. The cheeks opened, revealing the pilot sitting inside. It turned out to be two teenagers under the age of 20. Where is this? Clint opened his eyes and looked at the scenery outside the mecha in a daze. Welcome to the Four-Ring Star Alliance. Intermittent electronic mechanical sounds were faintly heard from the ground. Four-Ring Star Alliance, Burin opened his eyes and stood up from behind Clint. Is it no longer the home planet? Lord Chayu. This is the starting point of everything, and it is also the place you must experience. Chayu's voice contained a hint of silence. The starting point of everything. Clint took a deep breath. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 997. Hiss. Huh. Hiss. Huh. The sound of deep and huge breathing slowly sounded in the villa. Garen's whole body was soaked in a light yellow solution, with a faint white mist floating around him. A dot of blue light floated not far from him, and the halo above it flickered like eyes at night. There were no lights on in the entire villa. Beside the circular pool, a giant blue wolf lay lazily on the edge, yawning from time to time. It's been the 5th day since I came back. Garen suddenly opened his eyes, a bright fluorescent light flashing in his pupils. The injuries on the body have finally been completely healed, leaving no trace of hidden injuries. Although I can use the potential points to completely recover, the potential points are rare and rare, so I have to use them sparingly. He glanced at the huge screen erected not far away, which clearly displayed his current physical condition. My current 8th level of Chixyagong is running smoothly. In terms of absolute skill, it is a bit worse than that of Yunda. That guy is a middle level cotter of Uehui. His strength should not be as good as March, but it won't be too far behind. Garen slowly stood up from the solution, walked out of the pool naked, stood in front of the operating table, and casually began to adjust the procedures on the operating table. Then my focus is on the newly acquired Red Eagle state. The Red Eagle state, combined with the instant carton, should be able to have a good killing effect. He gently pressed the console in front of him. Suddenly a cool electronic sound sounded. The virtual object is being created and the simulation battle is started. Chi. Ripples suddenly appeared around Galen, and the surrounding environment suddenly changed from a closed biochemical chamber to a vast green forest. 10 meters in front of Garen, a familiar figure slowly emerged. It was Joey who had fought against him before. Without any words, Garen stepped on the ground, cracking the soil with a loud bang, turning into a phantom and heading straight towards Joey. Red Eagle status. He roared in his heart, his skin turned slightly red, and rusty red, feather-like hard leather began to appear on the surface of his arms. In an instant, Galleon's speed actually increased by at least nearly double. At this moment, his speed was almost the same as that of the giant blue wolf, from the original speed of 3 points to at least 5 points. The speed of 5 o'clock was so terrifying. Joey on the opposite side almost raised his hand and made a gesture of catching a dragon when he was hit by Garen's palm in the middle of his forehead. Bang! Joey took a few steps back, red blood slowly flowing from his head. Then he looked up to the sky and fell down without saying a word. Garen shook his head slightly. By restoring the data, Joey should no longer be my opponent. His strongest move, dragon shooting, is astonishingly lethal, but its speed can't keep up with my Red Eagle state. No matter how powerful the move is, it's useless if it can't hit anyone. The surrounding virtual environment suddenly dissipated, and Garen returned to his biochemical chamber. He slowly adjusted his body condition and recovered from the Red Hawk state. After these few days of adapting, I have been able to adapt completely to the Red Eagle state. The next step is to see if I can truly enter the Blood Eagle state. This is Garen's real purpose in adjusting his body and mind these past few days to reach the peak. Only by adjusting everything and reaching the best state can he embrace evolution to the greatest extent. He took out the bottle of genetic essence with his backhand. The liquid inside had been neutralized by him. He gently opened the stopper, raised his head and drank it all in one breath. The moment he drank it, the skin all over his body suddenly turned red, as if the skin all over his body was congested and swollen at the same time. All aspects of the body's quality also began to slowly improve due to the powerful effects of the medicine. Galen chose the speed gene essence. The perfect essence can increase the standard amount by 2 at a time. Originally, this medicine was very powerful and it would normally take at least half a month for an energy master to absorb it. However, after returning to the biochemical room, adding after long adjusted to the Red Eagle state, and then neutralized the extreme medicinal properties of the essence, he dared to drink it all in one go. 2 standard quantities are the terrifying quality of 4 points of agility. Chi. The skin all over Garen's body actually began to crack with cracks, revealing scarlet muscle tissue. The cracked wounds continued to automatically try to recover under the influence of the powerful physique and peacock body, but the newly scabbed wounds instantly regenerated under the huge potency of the medicine. Crashed again. With a pop, Garen simply jumped into the biochemical pool, using the power of the nutrient solution to accelerate the recovery of his wounds. With the combined effects of the medicinal properties of the medicinal solution and the recovery of the biochemical fluid, as well as the peacock body and strong physique, the wound gradually began to stop cracking and began to slowly recover. A trace of blood slowly spread along the biochemical fluid, faintly dyeing the entire pool red. I don't know how long it took, maybe 10 minutes, maybe half an hour. Garen suddenly flew up from the pool and slashed his arms in the air like lightning. Tisk. 2 transparent air blades shot out fiercely, hitting the hard inner wall of the biochemical chamber, leaving 2 tiny knife marks. The speed increased by 2 standard amounts. Not bad, it really worked. Garen gently landed on the edge of the pool and looked at his hands. When he was at the peak of his physical fitness, he could also slash the air knife with his bare hands, but this time I couldn't keep up with my physical fitness, so I couldn't reproduce it, but now after using the genetic essence, I have actually regained some of my original power. Glancing at his current status bar, Garen nodded with slight satisfaction. No Siwalin Strength 3.1, Agility 7.1, Constitution 4.8, Intelligence 8.1, Potential 2730%, Soul Limit 40. Agility has increased from the original 3 points to the current 7.1. This genetic essence worth tens of millions of crystals, if converted into a common point circulated by pilots, would be a terrifying measurement in trillions. It can be said that one of them is worth as much as half of the country, much more powerful than the priceless ones. This kind of thing is almost considered a peerless treasure. Garen checked the information and found that he had not seen this thing for sale in various stores, auctions or top workshops on the internet. This kind of genetic essence can only be produced by single-digit masters in the circle of all-round mechanics every year. It also costs a lot of material resources and the annual output is very small. Only top geniuses and noble sons can have it. Qualified to enjoy. The only ways for ordinary people to obtain this essence are two, the Ghost Mothership and the Killer Space. Killing Space, Garen flipped through the information. The Killing Space is a special organization similar to the Colosseum. It is a bit like black boxing. Experts from all over the world go in to participate in the fight. The winner who keeps winning for a month will get there are a lot of rewards, including this genetic essence. Among them, the master who can maintain 100 victories and become the king is respected as the devil in the world of weapon masters. It's just that generally such top masters are obtained by transformed people. They are not afraid of life and death, are not afraid of pain, and have fighting instincts. They are far beyond the comparison of ordinary energy masters. Forget it, now is not the time to worry about this. Let's see if we can enter the Blood Eagle first. Garen looked at the gene status bar below the attribute bar. Red Eagle gene add 2, low level gene, current increase rate, level 2, has reached the upper limit. The integrity of the gene chain is extremely high. If it continues to be strengthened, the stronger state of the gene fragment will be automatically selected, and there is a certain probability of returning to the ancestor and strengthening it into a Blood Eagle. I don't know how many potential points it will cost to strengthen it. Garen frowned slightly. Let's try it first. His eyes fell on the gene column. 3 seconds later, there was a sudden blur. The writing on the gene column disappeared completely, and the potential points quickly dropped by 2 points. After a moment, the gene column reappeared. As soon as he saw the appearance of the gene column, Garen sighed slightly. As expected, it failed. The gene column is still the same, without any change. However, he has experienced the evolution of organisms in the totem world, and knows that this kind of selection of gene fragments can increase the success rate through accumulation, because gene fragments are limited, and if you select a part first and fail, it is equivalent to eliminating this part. The total number of unknown gene fragments will be reduced, and the success rate will be improved to a certain extent. I just don't know how many Red Eagle gene fragments there are in total. If there are too many, I'm afraid the success rate will be horribly low. But genetic enhancement was indeed a big temptation for Garen, and he once again used the computer to find out the biological attributes of the Blood Eagle. Blood Eagle, an ancient predator that can control the enemy's blood flow to a certain extent. It is huge in size and has amazing strength. Speed is its strength. It can freeze the opponent's blood to a certain extent. It likes to live in ice and snow. It is an intermediate mutant creature. Once the Blood Eagle gene enhancement is successful, not only the speed and power will be improved, but more importantly, the ability to manipulate blood. This ability is radiated in the form of a force field. Once superimposed with cold energy radiation and red snow, the resulting power is not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. After many simulations, Garen came to the conclusion that once he successfully superimposes the 3, the effect produced by the combination of the 3 will not only be able to suppress the force fields of other Chi Snow Kung Fu practitioners, but more importantly, it can be greatly strengthened. The ability to freeze the opponent's blood. And this kind of ability is only qualified for the 12th level of Chixyugong to possess terrifying abilities. In other words, this is the ability possessed by the inheritance level Chixyu sect energy master. The force field is deployed, and low-level opponents will have their blood frozen as soon as they get close, making them unable to even resist. Chixyugong, below the 12th level, you can use various other means to make up for the gap. Physical strength, resistance strength, speed, can make up for the gap in skill, reaching the level of equal combat effectiveness, but only 10 after the second level. There will be no way to make up for this gap. Once the force field of hundreds of meters spreads out, the opponent will be unable to resist and will not even be qualified to stand in front of the opponent. Garen sighed. The intensity of genetic quality can be increased to a certain extent to make up for the gap in secret martial arts skills. As physical fitness improves, the resistance to the erosion of Qixuyang will increase, and a countervailing situation can also be formed to a certain extent. Genetic quality, secret martial arts skills, and the calculation power of the weapon master are the three pillars that determine combat effectiveness. Among them, the secret martial arts skills are similar to Qixuyang. The increase in realm level can also increase the calculation power of the energy weapon master, and the increase in calculation power will also affect the secret martial arts skills to a certain extent. The two influence each other and enhance each other. Genetic quality is another aspect of influence. This path is the path that modified people like to take, relying on their purely powerful body and will to resist and crush all possible threats. This is the path of the devil who kills the space. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 998. The Demon King is the top transformer standing among the three major cities of weapon masters. Genetic quality determines physical strength and natural abilities, and is a key factor affecting their combat effectiveness. I'm a bit like a half cyborg and half armor now, Garen commented on himself. For an armorer, physical fitness and strength are not the most important. This can only affect combat effectiveness, but the key is computing power and secret martial arts level. This is the key to breaking through the inheritance level. After a while of thoughts flowing, Garen continued to focus on his gene column. Once he succeeds in breaking through the Blood Eagle, he will have a breakthrough with great combat effectiveness. Although he cannot break through the realm, it will be of great help to himself. After all, it represents comparable inheritance level combat effectiveness. Come again. He gritted his teeth and continued to pour the remaining potential points into the gene bar. The potential points were decreasing rapidly, from 20 points to 10 points, 18, 16, 14, 12, 18, 6, 4. At this moment, the gene bar finally stopped. No longer trapped in ambiguity, but a message sent to Garen. Insufficient potential points. Lack of potential. Only then did Garen realize that his potential points were only in single digits, and the gene column. He took a deep breath. He paid such a high price this time. So far, he still hasn't found the Zion Cane. He doesn't know how long it will be until the next time he absorbs potential points. In other words, except for the powerful apart from some recovery abilities, he may no longer have any advantage over other genius mechanics, and may not even be as good as those real geniuses. After all, his intelligence is forcibly improved by relying on potential points. After suppressing the slight fluctuation in his heart, Garen turned his attention to the gene column. Bayet, will you go to tomorrow's exchange meeting? I heard that high-level senior brothers and sisters will be present to explain the key points of the first 3 levels of Qixuyang, as well as some physical conditions and precautions. Inside the base, an indifferent young man with white hair was resting his head on his hands, looking through the window at the shadows of smart airships that were continuously transporting supplies automatically. The roommate's inquiry came from next to him, but he didn't seem to hear it. Leave him alone, this guy is in a daze again, another roommate said, not surprised. There's something wrong. Really, let's discuss it ourselves. The two chatted among themselves and made arrangements for tomorrow's trip. As the largest sect in the Northern Territory, the Qixu sect occupies 1/3 of the entire Northern Territory. It is a veritable behemoth, with as many as 13 civilian countries under its jurisdiction, and its territory covers millions of square kilometers. The headquarters here is on the top of one of the 2 major mountain ranges in Kitasumi-shu. It is also the central area of these millions of square kilometers of territory. Baya came here through the interstellar teleportation array in order to seek opportunities for the family's rise. This is a paradise for energy masters, and it is the key location closest to the highest level of energy masters in this star field. Only here can he learn the most powerful mechanic skills. The Chixyu sect emphasizes the law of the jungle and free competition. Due to the highly intelligent production lines within the sect and the continuous transportation of various living materials from outside disciples, the energy masters who join do not need to run around for a living at all. They have enough water, food, and basic spiritual supplies every month. However, the entire sect is divided into 3 levels: one-hearted, two-minded and three-minded, and 3 types of disciples treatment. The difference in treatment between them is very large. Continuously improving the treatment is the ultimate goal of every disciple. Baye's heart is constantly ups and downs. The Chixyu Kung Fu of the Chixyu sect is not the most powerful, but it is the most suitable for his own family's Kung Fu. He dare not use the family's Kung Fu, so the Chixyu Kung Fu that is most suitable for him is the only one he can continuously the way to improvement. I am the top genius that my family has seen for 100 years. Even if I am alone in a foreign country, I will definitely be able to reach the top. Baye quietly clenched his fists and took a deep breath, as if to suppress the irritability in his heart. As new disciples, they have several ways to get extra income and promotion. 1. Continuously accept tasks, collect materials, herbs, act as guards and various manual duties, etc. You may receive various tasks. Among them, the highest rewards are given to low-level disciples. Most of them are distributed here by other sects from the outside world in Hosumai Prefecture. Some additional tasks, such as workshop processing assistance and the like. Remuneration generally fluctuates greatly, but it is a good way to make a name for yourself. Chixyugong possesses a special kind of cold air, which is somewhat different from the natural cold air, so it is often used in the manufacturing and processing of various ice-based energy machines. Intermediate and high-level energy masters simply don't bother with the simple task of releasing cold energy for such a small reward, but for low-level disciples, it is a huge amount of income. The second is to go to the major Erks and peak masters to act as temporary assistants, cooperate with experiments, and assist in calculations. Sometimes when some peak masters are short of time, they subcontract some simple and regularly repeated calculation processes to ordinary energy mechanics. This kind of subcontracting usually requires the participation of a large number of low-level energy mechanics, and it is stipulated that check and calculate 5 times. If you make a mistake, the consequences will be very serious, so it is very labor-intensive. But the reward for such a task is naturally very high, and some of the things thrown out by Erks and disciples are enough for ordinary Yuks and disciples to consume for a long time. The third is maintenance. Various mechanical devices inside the branch base need to be overhauled and replaced with new parts. This is a messy product, and the pay is not too much, not too medium, but it is very suitable for people who don't like intrigues and competitions. What a static energy mechanic! The fourth is to continue to study and learn by yourself, and constantly come up with new conjectures and think about the results. As long as your conclusions and experimental results are of use value, rewards of the corresponding level will be issued to whatever level you are assessed. This path is specifically for computing geniuses, but most people just forget it. Baye lay on his back on the upper bunk bed. They, the first-level energy masters, were at the bottom of the sect. Most of the base is a somewhat deserted environment. Apart from picking up new recruits, there are almost no people outside. Only airships are constantly shuttled back and forth. Under the intelligent base operation, a large number of disciples enter the airships and move around. Only the residential area is much livelier. It is not in the base, but at the foot of the snow peaks of the major peaks. The high-paying subcontracting tasks leaked from Swifeng are the key to attracting popularity. In addition, the unique treatment of the Master of Erksan Peak and benign radiation have also led many energy mechanics to feel that getting closer to the radiation area is more helpful for your own practice. Therefore, many Euxin disciples simply built houses to live under the major snow peaks so that they could grab subcontracting tasks as soon as possible. Popularity brings amenities. This has also led to the gradual formation of various markets, shops, hawkers, street stalls, trade fairs, black markets, and all kinds of trading methods. Not only disciples of this sect, but also merchants and traders from outside, are gathered there. There are banking institutions, major business alliances, workshops, etc. The strong consumption power of Euxin's disciples drives the operation of the industrial chain. As a large sect, the Chixu sect leaks some resources from time to time, which are treasures that ordinary people outside can only dream of. Pilots, nobles, and wealthy people all bought houses here, and over time, small cities based on Swifeng were formed. It also led to the strange phenomenon that the inside of the base was deserted, but the small town at the foot of Swifeng Mountain was bustling with activity. I need white melting crystals to improve my family's skills. Although there are many crystals here that are very cheap, they also require a lot of crystals. There are so many small towns in Swifeng of the Chixu section. I must find a place that is most suitable for me to make money. Baya analyzed in his mind. The pay for subcontracting tasks is very high, but I guess I can't compete with those people. My extreme winter physique is not afraid of any low temperature environment. I am the genius with the purest bloodline in my family for hundreds of years. I should be able to reach a higher level soon by practicing Qixigong. But people here don't know the reputation of extreme winter physique, so no one will probably notice me. His mind kept spinning. His family's skills had already reached the level of a second-level energy master. It shouldn't be difficult for him to make money. It was just a matter of choosing a method. I think it's better to go to Red Sand Peak. Oral, the leader of Red Sand Peak, is trying to reach the 9th level of Red Snow technique. Most of the simple tasks of cultivating energy weapon marks that he took over earlier have been subcontracted. I'll go find him. My brother might be able to catch some. Let's go to Black Wolf Peak. I heard that the leader of Black Wolf Peak, Jialong Peak, and the outside manager Yunda have made an agreement on the decisive battle platform. A lot of calculations must be completed. Let's go and guard it first. Maybe we will be outsourced. Mission the roommate analyzed on the side. Are you going to the exchange meeting at Falcon Peak? I won't go if I can get subcontracted tasks, the roommate replied casually. I also plan to go home next month and ask my mother for some money. The prices here are too expensive. I can only have a meal in my hometown as long as 50 general points are required. A crystal stone will take more than half a year, but here it is calculated in terms of crystal units at every turn. It's so confusing. My dad has already spent too much money to send me here, and I don't have as much money as your family. It's better to go to the small town first to see if there are any opportunities. When Baya heard this, he got up and saw the two roommates below holding small desk lamps and drawing circles on the electronic screen calendar. He jumped out of bed and walked over to take a quick glance, and found that each date on the calendar had multiple activities, rallies, subcontract task release dates, or peak leader lectures recorded on each date. Baya, are you awake? The roommate with yellow hair and a crew cut gave Baya a friendly look. He always felt that Baya had a special temperament and was definitely not an ordinary person. Which snow peaks may be outsourced tomorrow? Baya nodded and asked casually. 15 Swifeng cities have announced in advance that they will issue outsourcing tasks. Look, they are all here. Huang Mao zipping to handed over the small book in his hand. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 999. Baya took it and glanced at it carefully. Numerous names appeared in the notebook. Moten Peak, Elsie Peak, Snake Demon Peak, Two-Headed Snake Peak, Red Dragon Peak, Black Wolf Peak, Red Sand Peak, and Islau Peak. A total of 8 names are arranged above. I arranged the tasks in order of difficulty, from the easiest and most likely to obtain the tasks. The last 4 are the higher ranking levels among the Erksan Peak Masters. The ones that are more difficult to obtain are more difficult. Huang Mao Xiaopingtu smiled. Explain. Higher ranking, Bai Ye suddenly recalled the brief battle he witnessed in front of the electric gate, and his heart moved slightly. The Peak Master of Black Wolf Peak. His name is Garen, right? Yes, the Master of Black Wolf Peak usually does not come forward. All matters are negotiated by his 2 assistants. He belongs to the type who devotes himself to ascetic cultivation. Even some visits from the royal family of the kingdom have been blocked. It is said that 5 years ago, when he first entered the school, he was only a level 3 energy mechanic. Now he has become a level 4 in just 5 years. He has made rapid progress. Another roommate said, "Why, Bai Ye, are you planning to go to Black Wolf Peak to take over the contract? Don't talk about me. Didn't remind you, when I got this intelligence information, my brother specifically reminded me that the subcontracting tasks of Islau Peak and Black Wolf Peak were very difficult, because the 2 peak leaders have high requirements and their own strength rankings. It's the first 50, so don't overestimate your capabilities." This roommate also has short white hair. He seems to have a good family background. He likes to dress up and shop. With his looks and figure, he can be considered a handsome boy. He is here to get gold. He has long been dissatisfied with Bai Ye's indifferent attitude. So the tone is not very friendly. He glanced at the expressionless Bai Ye and smiled. These high-ranking peak masters are all very demanding people. To put it mildly, they are extremely demanding. If you can't complete one of them and offend the peak master, that would be fun. Don't be ridiculous, those 2 hard peak masters are not on the same level as us at all, and they don't have the qualifications to offend them. They are the elite among the elite who pursue the path of inheritance. It would be great if we can reach the 4th level in this life. The yellow-haired boy shook his head and sighed. In some small sects of Hosumai Prefecture, 4th level energy masters can even be regarded as the top elites. Annual salary of 1 million is not a problem. Back home, spicy food is also popular. There is a hurdle from level 3 to level 4, and many people cannot break through it in their lifetime. The qualifications of Huang Mao and others are only at the level of ordinary people. If you want to advance to level 1, you will have to spend a lot of time, energy, and resources. It is extremely difficult to advance to the 3rd level, because they only belong to a level with slightly better computing power. Although they are still top-notch in the small area of Hitasumi State, in a core place like the Red Snow Sect, they do not have more than 2 points of computing power. Don't even think about entering the 2nd level, which is the 4th level of Chixyagong. The natural limitations of computing power prevent them from asking for too much. They would be satisfied with an annual income of tens or millions of general-purpose points. And such a level can be easily achieved as long as it reaches the 3rd level or the 4th level. I will go back and inherit my mother's company after 4 years here. Anyway, I have no intention of getting ahead in a place like this. In this hellish place, you are strong. There are people stronger than you. The white-haired boy shook his head and said. At least I have come in and experienced it once, and I am satisfied for the rest of my life. This is the highest palace of weapon masters in Kitsumi Prefecture. My only dream is to break through and enter the 2nd level before graduating in 4 years, Huang Mao Xiaopingtu said with emotion. Forget it, why are you thinking so much? It's still early. Where do you plan to go tomorrow? I'm going to Mount Elsie. Go to Black Wolf Peak, Bai Ye replied in a low voice. As soon as he finished speaking, the other 2 people stared at him speechlessly. Just trying my luck, Bai Ye shrugged and said calmly, I'm going back to sleep. He ignored the looks of his 2 companions and turned back to his bed. Garen looked carefully at his changed attribute column. There are not many potential points left, but the gene column clearly shows new and completely different content. Blood Eagle gene, intermediate gene, current increase speed, level 2, upper limit is level 3, innate ability, blood control. The integrity of the gene chain is extremely high. If you continue to strengthen it, you will automatically select a stronger state among the gene fragments, and there is a certain probability of returning to your ancestors and strengthening it into the Blood Eagle King. Control blood. Garen clenched his fist and suddenly raised his hand towards the giant blue wolf beside the biochemical pool. An invisible force instantly enveloped the surface of the blue wolf's body. It immediately roared, stood up and looked around vigilantly, seeming a little restless. The effect is not bad. Garen can feel that he can affect the blue wolf's blood flow rate with just a little force. If he explodes with all his strength, he should be able to control the short-term blood stagnation. If this moment of stagnation can also have an effect on the enemy function, then the effect in combat will be very powerful. Master, Hill can call and request. Suddenly a voice came from the villa's central control system. Garen was about to try out his newly improved Blood Eagle state when he heard the sound and let out a slight breath. Connect the call. After a brief murmur, the voice of one of the two assistants, Zerk, came in. Senior Brother Garen, there is a visitor coming. He is a member of the royal family of the Kingdom of Mills. He said that he has something you need. The Mills royal family? I have no dealings with them, right? Garen frowned, walked to the side and put on the hanging clothes, buttoning them one by one. The person here is Her Royal Highness Princess Mills. Her attitude is very low. Do you want to see her? Sieke asked in a low voice. Did they say what they brought? Garen asked slightly impatiently. It's said to be one of the ores you announced to search for. Hilko simply answered. Because of her retardation, she was responsible for the main intelligence liaison and reception. The other person, Bernstadt, is responsible for the focus on outings. One of the ores I once announced. Garen's heart moved. Let them wait in the living room. I'll be back in a moment after changing my clothes. Yes. Garen's expression remained unchanged, and he quickly arranged his clothes, put on the two-heart shoulder armor that was the identity mark worn by the Chixu sect, and put on the ceremonial white cloak. Then he strode out of the biochemical room and walked along the corridor. And soon came to an elevator. After standing in, the elevator moved upwards rapidly. Ding! Half a minute later, the elevator stopped and Garen walked out of the separated silver doors. He saw a group of people waiting in the living room. The leader of this group of people is a noble blonde woman. She is not very old, only in her 20s. Her long blonde hair is tied up. She is wearing a moon-white long skirt and a black shawl on her shoulders. The most important thing is that there is also an exquisite white gold flower crown on her head. Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess, has come all the way. It's rude of me to keep you waiting for so long. Garen smiled slightly as soon as they met, strode up to meet the eldest princess, gently took the eldest princess's hand and kissed her. Master Black Wolf Peak, you're welcome. You are now the 12th master in Swafeng Peak, and you have a bright future. Compared to you, my title as the district chief princess is much inferior. Your and my friends all call me Annie. You can also call me directly like this, the eldest princess said with a gentle smile. So, Your Highness Annie, I don't have any direct contact with your Mills royal family, right? I wonder what your visit is this time. Garen motioned for the other party to sit down beside him. He himself followed suit and sat on the main seat. He looked at the eldest princess carefully. Princess Annie was said to be a famous beauty in the Kingdom of Mills, and now it seemed that she was indeed extraordinary. Her noble temperament is mixed with a hint of approachability. She has a perfect figure, big breasts, a slim waist, and long legs. Her skin is as smooth and delicate as pearls. When she sits down elegantly, her legs are tightly together, but her long skirt has a faint crack from the edge. You can get a glimpse of the mystery between your legs. I heard that the Black Wolf Peak Master is looking for an ore called red malachite. Princess Annie smiled and motioned to the maid guard beside her to hand over a black box. She took the box and opened it gently, revealing a red ore placed on black silk. The ore is as crystal clear as crystal, vaguely exuding an inexplicable aura of pure nature. According to the test, if you have no mistakes in the composition list of the ore, I think this ore may be what you need. Princess Annie knows the key to dealing with these energy masters, that is, simplicity and ability. Mechanics are all madmen in research and practice. Going in too complicated circles will not only fail to achieve the desired effect, but will also be self-defeating. Therefore, the best way to deal with them is to get straight to the point. Garin squinted his eyes and looked carefully at the ore in the box. Do you mind if I take over and take a look? Of course not. The eldest princess handed the box to Garin. Garin gently picked up the ore from the box. His face did not change color, but there was a huge wave in his heart. This is not only red malachite, it is simply the top red malachite mineral crystal. This kind of thing can only be found in the deepest core of the ore, and its concentration and purity are outrageously high. Just as Garin came into contact with this ore, he felt the cold hell peacock skill thread at his fingertips devour it like a mad desire. This longing is like a bone-gnawing itching, making people feel unbearable. Suppressing the devouring desire in his heart, Garin raised his head and looked at the eldest princess. It is indeed the ore I need, but I don't know how much of this kind of ore is left in your country. It depends on how much you need. Annie smiled. Garin knew that the other party was preparing to bargain. He lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Within a reasonable range, I need at least 1,000 tons. If it is of this concentration and purity you have, I can purchase it all at a price higher than the market price. He also responded with vague standards. At this time, no one would reveal their bottom line first. Princess Annie smiled. To tell you the truth, we have a total of 5 mineral veins in the Kingdom of Mills. For us, this ore is one of the raw materials used to extract high-energy fuel and is a necessity. All are controlled by the country's nobles. Your needs the amount is a bit large, and I need some support to get the total amount you need. Support? As the eldest princess, you are also one of the top 3 people in the Kingdom of Mills. Do you still need the support of a little peak master like me? Garin smiled back. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1000. You underestimate yourself too much. The Chixu sect, one of the 3 major sects in the Northern Territory, the 12th ranked master of the Urkson Peak, has a high status. Compared with a promising and powerful weapon master like you, our status and position are not as good as yours. What's praiseworthy? The two began to talk nonsense, and secretly began to test each other's price bottom line. 1,000 tons, this quantity is not a small amount. The total output of the Mills Kingdom in a year may only be around tens of thousands of tons. In this way, 1,000 tons will be taken away at once. Every slight price difference will be amplified by the huge amount into a terrifying number. Even if Garin is an elite weapon master and is not short of money, he still has to be careful when spending such a large sum of money. His main income is only from selling the energy weapon marks he made and some fixed resources distributed by the sect, which are only worth tens of thousands of crystals a month. If converted into general points, it would be billions, but thousands of tons of red malachite. 1 ton costs tens of millions of general purpose points, and 1 ton costs tens of billions. Such huge expenses are terrifying. The two bargained for more than half an hour before reluctantly settling on a price that was slightly higher than the market price by 10%, but it had to be delivered in one go. After completely deciding on the deal, the two of them relaxed. Princess Annie does not have the qualifications to be a mechanic, nor is she a pilot. She only has the ability to practice beauty and slow down aging, but she has no fighting ability at all. Her safety mainly relies on the two maids and guards around her. The sun was setting at this time. Garen was in a good mood after receiving the resources and materials for practicing the Cold Hell Peacock skill, and his eyes towards the eldest princess became more and more friendly. Simply leave the three of you to dine together in the villa. This villa is not the one over there in the centralized residential area. This is a residence built by each peak owner on his own mountain. The one assigned by the faction is a separate residence built inside the base. I usually only go back and stay for a while after the occasional galleon. Call Bernstad back to discuss the specific transportation method, location, process, and other details with one of the eldest princess's bodyguards and part-time maid. After Galen had dinner with Annie, he walked alone in the tourist corridor on the side of the peak. On the side of the corridor is a fully transparent glass floor-to-ceiling window, through which you can see a vast sea of white clouds below, which is spectacular and shocking. What a spectacular design, Annie admired sincerely. Garen smiled. This is a corridor I designed based on the residence I once lived in. Isn't it decent? It's beautiful, Annie nodded, her gaze resting on the distant sea of clouds for a long time, showing a look of yearning. Compared to you, we, small mortals, will not see the opportunity to control our own destiny in the future, and we will not be able to resist a lot of force and oppression. Now that I think about it, I feel really sad. It's not true that being strong is good, Garen said softly. When you are strong, you will be noticed. The greater the power, the greater the influence. The more powerful you are, the greater the impact of every move you make. Various crisis risks will also follow. It is precisely because everyone yearns to be powerful, so powerful people themselves are the source and goal of their desires. How can such a life be peaceful? You are right, Annie nodded. She stretched out her hand to gently straighten her hair. No matter what stage of life you are in, you will have your own troubles and dilemmas. Everyone yearns for a better life, but when it really reaches that point, the troubles and difficulties we face will already exist, it's just replaced with new content. It seems that you are very enlightened, Garen smiled. Isn't it the same for you? Annie chuckled and spread her hands. Cold air slowly gathered in her palms and turned into a condensed ice crystal. The ice crystals automatically deformed and carved, forming an ice sculpture the size of a palm in just a few seconds. What is carved is a sharp snow peak above the sea of clouds. This is the Black Wolf Peak, Annie answered affirmatively. The beauty consciousness I cultivate can only have so much effect besides delaying aging. Excellent carving skills. Garen sincerely admired the lifelike carvings, and the level of detail was terrifying. He even saw a slender corridor on the side cliffs of the top of the mountain, and from the corridor he saw a pair of scattered. There was a man and a woman, and that was clearly him and Annie now. Being able to carve such a delicate work on a palm-sized place in just a few seconds is really impressive. I heard that the Lord of Galen Peak and the Regent of Wenda are going to have a decisive battle on the decisive stage. Annie gently threw the ice sculpture, and let it explode in mid-air and turned into a cloud of snowflakes. This news spread so quickly, Garen was a little surprised that even the Mills Kingdom knew about it. He thinks he's not that famous yet, right? You are being too modest. You must know that we have recorded the top 20 masters of the three major sections. You peak masters are no better than those legendary Sangzan disciples. It is impossible for them to be stationed in Baisumi province. Only the second heart disciples are most likely to stay as spokespersons of the sect and take charge of the affairs of various countries. So it really seems that what we need to contact are the second heart elites like you, Annie explained. Then Chief Wenda was released like this? Galen asked in return. That's right, Annie nodded. He is the regent of the Leiden Kingdom in the Red Snow Sect's domain. He originally had the status of a royal family, and the Leiden Kingdom is weak. Of course, for you, these identities are irrelevant. You can't say that. No matter how bad a kingdom is, there are still inheritance-level masters. Garen shook his head. The entire Leiden kingdom only has the support of a few inheritance-level veterans. If you want it, just ask, and I, the Mills kingdom, will fully support you and become your backing. Annie showed a charming smile. There are many kingdoms under the Chixyu sect, among which the Mills kingdom ranks in the upper middle. It has good national strength and a deep foundation. If it is used as a backing, it is indeed a good choice. So what do I need to pay? Garen asked with a smile. My father's youngest daughter, Her Royal Highness Princess He-Man, has been admiring you for a long time. Perhaps we can further strengthen our closer relationship. Annie smiled slightly and said softly. Another marriage. Garen was helpless. Princesses in the royal family were actually tools for marriage. There were countless such princesses in the royal family. They spread marriage alliances everywhere to attract powerful elites and strengthen bloodline genes. Such actions were not uncommon. Seeing that Garen remained silent, Ani's eyes flashed with an inexplicable luster. I heard that Master Yunda himself has just broken through the 10th level of the Red Snow technique, and his strength has greatly increased. Of course, Master Jialong Peak must be aware of this information, but I have a piece of information here that you may be interested in. Just treat it as an added bonus for our collaboration. Annie raised her hand and turned the white jade bracelet on her wrist. Suddenly, an invisible electric wave was transmitted to the Garan energy machine mark. Garen quickly decoded it with the energy weapon mark. Each energy weapon master's energy weapon mark was equivalent to a portable high-performance computer. Naturally, this little thing couldn't trouble him. After quickly decompiling according to the decoding method given by Annie, a piece of intelligence information about Werder was obtained. Prince Regent of Wenda, real name is Charles Wenda, 128 years old, 10th level of Chixia Kung Fu. Other general information. Latest news, in addition to Chixia Kung Fu, Wenda also practices additional training. He has developed a mysterious technique, the Ice Cicada technique, which can temporarily increase the amplitude of the Chi Snow technique, and its explosive power is unknown. Below is the rest of the video intel on Werder's previous matches. Garen frowned and looked over it quickly. It has to be said that at first, he just regarded this guy as a helper and follower around March. Unexpectedly, it seems now that this guy is very hidden, and he fights very frequently, winning almost every time. And it's just that there's often a fight in the front, and the fight is suddenly resolved in the back. Based on the investigation, we found that Yunda must have a very strong explosive ability. Of course, everyone has their own hidden strength, just strong or weak. However, we were lucky enough to find Yunda's Ice Cicada skill. I learned a little bit of information. Annie continued to explain. The Ice Cicada technique is a technique imitating a killer move of a master pilot. It can instantly release a cold, sharp flying insect called Ice Cicada. This Ice Cicada, the whole body is extremely hard, extremely fast, and very sharp, and can penetrate very high-level armor instantly, depending on how well the Ice Cicada is cultivated. Is the Ice Cicada cultivated in the body? Garen asked. Yes, so you must be careful not to fight with him up close. Annie nodded. Garen was silent. He had just broken through the Blood Eagle state. Then we would see whether his Blood Eagle state was stronger or the opponent's Ice Cicada skill was stronger. A month goes by in a blink of an eye. Finally, the date for the decisive battle between Garan and Werder has arrived. The decisive battle at the 2-heart level is different from that of the 1-shin level. Usually, the 1-shin level comes to the stage to resolve disputes. Very few 2-heart members are really willing to go on stage and take action. After all, most of Erksen's energy weapon masters are at the 3rd or 4th level. Even in the entire energy weapon master world, they are considered to be good elites. In addition, they are from a big sect, and they are superior to ordinary energy weapon masters when they go out. You can have a good time wherever you go, and it's enough to live a stagnant life and live a good retirement life. No one wants to go on stage to fight with others. On the huge indoor decisive battle stage, in the center of the pure white stage, a cylindrical white light curtain was projected, forming an independent area in the middle of the decisive battle stage. At noon, many people had already arrived in the empty audience seats. There were also many people coming out to watch the game in the always deserted sub-base. The decisive battle may only occur once or twice every few years, and the opportunity is rare. Many energy masters from Yishin arrived one after another and took good positions to watch the battle. The auditorium was extremely crowded, and the seats that could accommodate thousands of people were filled with ninjutsu masters and their relatives and friends. Fortunately, the energy masters who always liked to be quiet did not make too much noise, and most of them discussed the causes and consequences of the decisive battle in low voices. March and the others slowly walked up to the seats reserved for them, and sat indifferently on their seats with their eyes closed to meditate. The final stage allows for disability, even life and death, and is a good place to resolve conflicts within the genre. Yunda and Yiling were sitting next to March and glanced at the entire audience. A smile appeared on Wen Da's face. It's just a good opportunity to show off my Yu Hui's strength. It can also be regarded as a publicity. It's a pity that those from Erksan didn't come. March shook his head. It's just a showdown between juniors. They won't come. After the fight, you can challenge the swarm directly and give it a try first. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1001. Werder nodded. No problem. The decisive battle stage itself is one of the places where he honed himself. Duels of life and death are commonplace for him. In the Chixu sect, decisive battles are also very common. Almost every day, many people come to watch the battle and enjoy the excitement. This has always been a place where many disciples release their inner depression. It's just that decisive battles at such a high level of ranking are rare. So there were a lot of people coming this time. Whoosh! Suddenly, a black line passed over the battle platform. It was a sharp and slender black airship. The airship instantly stopped on the empty space opposite March and the group, and a short-haired man with a dark body walked down from it. His eyes were a little strange, as if they had some strange attraction. His shoulders were densely covered with black bees, which looked a little penetrating. Swarm, March's eyes turned cold and she stared at the opponent closely, with murderous intent unabashedly revealed in her eyes. You killed my sister and you dare to show up in front of me openly. Why don't I dare to come out? Fenken said calmly, your sister is seeking death on her own. If I don't kill her, someone else will do it sooner or later. You and I will fight to the death today. Now that you're here, don't even think about leaving, you said coldly, we have a half-year appointment, and everything will be settled today. I think so too. Bee Swarm remained expressionless as she gently teased the black bee on her shoulder. Hearing the conversation between the two, there was another uproar in the audience. In the newcomer area at the edge, 3 teenagers gathered together and were discussing the dispute in a low voice while staring at the two sides confronting each other on the stage. 3 of them, 1 with yellow hair and 2 with white hair, looked novel in everything they looked at. Surprisingly, it was the trio from Baye's dormitory. Baye crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at the final stage in the field with a hint of curiosity. This was the first time he had seen a decisive stage of this scale. Even in the 4-ring Star Alliance, where weapon masters are relatively developed, there are only top-notch ones. Only a large family would have one. I didn't expect to see such a level of battle platform in just any state here. Hantian Sanyu has already made an appointment with Fenken for today's decisive battle. Maybe they have also planned the decisive battle between Werder and Garan in advance, and all conflicts will be resolved today. The yellow-haired boy guessed in a low voice. That's definitely the case. Ranked 3rd in March, Bee Swarm is a rising talent. He was promoted from level 4 to level 5 in just 10 years. It is said that he is well cared for by the chief of Carthage. He must be very strong by Mao, he whispered with a confident look. Look, I'm optimistic about the bee swarm. Although March is powerful and Yuehui is very strong, brother Carthage is the strongest. No one can hinder him. Xingpai is led by him, and it is definitely not Yuehui. Such corrupt forces can't compare. I think the match between Werder and Galen was probably intended to establish prestige and serve as an appetizer for the start of the war. There is a comparison. Maybe there will be big names present today. Comparing the two battles before and after, in March the purpose is not just to simply defeat the swarm, but more like trying to use someone's name to increase one's own worth. Baya, who seldom spoke, suddenly said. The big shot is here? How is that possible? Senior brother March and senior brother Fenken are already among the top 2 minds. Bai Mao has always disliked Baya and immediately retorted. Baya didn't refute, just fell silent again. Huang Mao also didn't believe that although the decisive battle between March and others was high-end, it was unlikely to attract higher-level people to come. Soon another group of people arrived. Sitting next to March and Bee Swarm were royal representatives from several different kingdoms, including the eldest princess of Mills, Aini. Sitting next to her was a high-ranking woman from an unknown country. The two were talking. Laugh. Welcome to His Royal Highness Prince Gagard, Crown Prince of the Blue Light Empire. March stood up and bowed slightly towards the direction of the royal seat with a smile on his face. A young man wearing a white crown over there also smiled and stood up to return the greeting. Mr. March, you're welcome. Blu-ray Empire is only ranked in the upper middle, similar to Mills, but when March was singled out, it was obviously the supporting country behind him. After the royal seats were full, everyone noticed that there was still one seat left unoccupied at the VIP table. Soon someone began to place pale gold nameplates representing their identity. The light gold represents the VIP with the highest status present. When this sign was put down, everyone was a little stunned. Is there a higher level executive in place? When March saw the nameplate being put down, the corner of her mouth suddenly curled up slightly. The man behind the swarm is finally coming out. Wenda and others around him also paid close attention to that side. As soon as he finished speaking, a white beam of light was projected from the ceiling above the battlefield and landed directly on the VIP seat. Several figures slowly formed in the beam of light. The person who came was actually accompanied by a beautiful slave named Radiant. 3 beauties of different shapes were held in chains by the leading man. That man, Qin Viang, looked like a very ordinary noble young man, but one of his ears was not a human ear, but as sharp as an elf, as if it was not flesh, but made of transparent crystal, which was extremely conspicuous. How dare you bring slaves into the base? How outrageous! The cruel look in March's eyes flashed away. Slaves and radioactive people are not allowed to enter the base and are only allowed to live in the city at the foot of the mountain. Otherwise, it is a violation of the regulations. And this person actually dared to take the slave directly into an important place like the decisive battle stage. He was obviously either extremely confident or completely ignorant. Looking at the other party's behavior, it was obvious that he couldn't be the latter. After everyone was seated, 3 young men in white walked in from the outside entrance. The person walking at the front was a strong man with a height of 1.9 meters. His short black hair was blown slightly by the wind from time to time. He seemed to have a faint aura of toughness. In particular, his eyes looked cold and sharp, and the corners of his mouth were slightly curved downwards, giving people a very fierce look at a glance. Galen Yunda stood up from the VIP table and his voice came from afar. See you on the battlefield, he smiled ferociously. I hope you can still laugh after a while, Garen said lightly. Bernstadt and Hill followed him to the waiting seats on the sidelines and sat down. Werder also walked down from the seat accompanied by his followers and sat down on the waiting empty seat. March stood up from the VIP table with a smile. Today, I am honored to be able to stand here as a referee representative and decide the outcome for the top 20 Erks and Peak Masters. This is my honor. As soon as these words were spoken, there was an uproar below. Garen's pupils tightened, and his face suddenly became a little ugly. He's the referee. Bernstad stood up in disbelief. Are you kidding? He started this decisive battle, and now he is the referee. Shut up, Garen interrupted him and said calmly. But, Bernstad gritted his teeth and said angrily. There is nothing wrong with it. The situation will not always be favorable to you. There are too many different situations in the world, some good and some bad. If you don't learn to fight back in bad situations, you won't achieve great success in your life. Long slowly became calmer. Time passed slowly, and soon all the indicators on the decisive battle stage were tested, and the decisive battle could really begin. Wenda chuckled, and a black python coiled around him appeared behind him. The python's eyes slowly lit up red. Go. With a flash of his body, he jumped up from the sidelines and brought out several phantoms that landed on the stage and stood still. A black giant wolf emerged from behind Garen. He gently rubbed the fur on the giant wolf's neck, and one person and one wolf slowly walked onto the final stage. Let's begin. March's voice came with a smile. The moment the sound fell, Garen stepped forward and stepped hard on the ground of the fighting platform with his right foot. Boom! His whole body shot straight towards Wenda like an arrow, and the giant wolf followed closely behind him. One person and one wolf instantly turned into two lines, one black and one white. Dare you make the first move? Wenda pulled his right hand, and a black jagged chain appeared from the void, similar to a whip. He raised his hand and struck Galen fiercely. Chi! The whip was wrapped in powerful cold snowflakes and struck Garen's head. As a veteran strongman, he is naturally very comfortable with all kinds of moves. The whip brought the 10th level of Chi Shuekong and crashed towards Garen. He was determined to suppress Garen with the difference in power. At the same time, a slightly black protective film slowly lit up around Wenda. The 4th level of the black python shield, Sanyu's mouth curled up in an arc. It's enough to deal with that kind of one-time explosive box. Garen turned sideways, narrowly avoiding the lash of the whip. With a little movement of his right hand, a puff of cold air shot out, causing the whip to pause. The subsequent changes were immediately interrupted. Garen took the opportunity to bully him and moved forward with his left palm. Deliver. Double speed punch. In an instant, 3 times the speed exploded. The left palm actually exploded 3 times the speed in an instant, catching Werder off guard and being hit hard in the chest with the palm. Bang! The black shield shook a bit but was not broken. The speed is fast enough, but the strength is too weak. Wenda chuckled, and a giant python popped out behind him and rushed towards Garen's door. The giant python was overwhelmed by the black wolf that jumped out from the side, and the two biological beasts were entangled and fought together. Garen quickly retreated, his face unchanged. This palm was just to test his current attack power. Indeed, he is now a bit faster than Werder, but his strength is too weak and he does not have enough lethal moves to break the opponent's defense. This is his shortcoming. If you want to defeat the opponent, you have to first break the opponent's reinforced shield. That layer of slightly black shield is not just the protective force field of the 5th level energy weapon master, it is more like a special energy field practice. The strength far exceeds the average level 5 energy weapon master's protective force field. And the only way to break through that layer of defense is by myself. What's wrong? There's nothing we can do about it? What did you say in the beginning? See you on the final stage. Those words were so powerful, why have they faded now? Wenda had a disgusting smile on his face, although he couldn't keep up with the speed. Long, but he whipped his whip in 4 directions, bringing out countless sharp whip shadows, approaching Garen step by step. Garen remained silent and kept swaying on the stage to avoid the shadow of the whip, letting Werder force him with words. He remained unmoved. With a whimper, the big wild wolf next to him seemed to be unable to hold on any longer. He was entangled in a circle of black pythons. It was pretty good that he had been able to hold on until now. As a level 3 cannon fodder creature, this is already an extraordinary performance. Come again. Garen's expression did not change, and he rushed towards Werder at top speed. There was an absolute gap in speed between the two. Werder could not keep up with his movements at all, and was hit in the ribs with his palm again, shaking his body slightly. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1002. Garen used Wan Zhenggong's destruction in this attack, but the explosive power was even weaker than before. This made him sigh slightly, retreat quickly, and reappear at his original standing point. Is this all you can do? Wen Da's face showed a mocking look. At the VIP table, March had a sneer on her face. It seems that galleons are no longer enough. According to the regulations, you can admit defeat now. As long as you pay some spoils, you can step down. Yi Ling frowned at the side. Step down and admit defeat? It depends on whether I agree or not. Yu clapped her hands lightly. Snapped. A layer of soundproofing film suddenly rose up on the decisive battle stage below, directly blocking all sounds inside. On the fighting platform, Garen raised his head and looked at the sound insulation film slowly rising from the edge. What's the use of this protective film? He asked with a frown. What's the use? Of course it's to isolate the sound. Wenda smiled grimly. He reached out and pressed the handle of the whip. With a snap, his entire whip suddenly split into 3 slender black whips. He looked through the protective film at the swarm of bees on the VIP table. Lord Fenken, Lord March asked me to say hello to you. He raised 3 whips and threw them gently. Suddenly the 3 whips turned into 3 black pythons in mid-air, and they opened their big mouths ferociously and rushed towards Garen. Go. The bee swarm at the VIP table looked a little ugly. 4 level 5 experimental subjects? Sure enough, you have the ability to be arrogant. The audience was already immersed in excitement at this moment. Werder was indeed a veteran master with profound knowledge, and he became a 4-headed experimental body as soon as he made a move. It was obvious that he had used some special method to increase the number of controllable experimental subjects. A normal weapon master, even at level 5, can only control 2 or 3 heads, but he can actually control 4. Baya and the other 3 were staring nervously at the final stage. Master Jialong Peak is in danger. Huang Mao's voice was tight, and no one could stand Yun Da's arrogant look. Naturally, he is the same, and of course he hopes that the much lower key Garen will win. With 4 experimental bodies, to increase the upper limit that has been finalized, the resources spent are definitely not a simple number. It is really a generous amount by Mao's side. He has certain knowledge in this regard and knows how much it costs and how much it costs. Giving, I sincerely admire you at this time. Master Garen Peak is probably about to admit defeat. Not necessarily, Baya suddenly said. Look at Lord Jialong's face. When the 2 of them heard him speak, they immediately paid attention to Garen's face. They were shocked to find that not only did Garen's face show no trace of fear or panic, but it was actually calmer than before. Look at his hands, Baya suddenly shouted, and his eyes suddenly opened wide, as if he had seen something incredible. On the decisive battle stage, Garen slowly raised his hand. There was a light golden ring on his white finger, and the ring slowly shimmered. Giant black wolves slowly appeared around him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 10, 20, 30. A dense pack of wolves appeared next to Garen, surrounding him like stars holding the moon. Each giant wolf is at least 2 meters long and more than 1 meter tall. Their muscles are strong and their claws are sharp and glowing with cold light. As soon as the 4 giant pythons pounced on them, they were swarmed by more than a dozen giant wolves. They pounced on them and suppressed them on the stage, entangled and fighting. In almost just a few seconds, the entire decisive battle stage was filled with giant wolves released by Garen. More than 30 wolves looked up to the sky and howled wildly. Woo! Accompanied by the huge wolf howl, the whole area around the decisive battle stage instantly became uproar. How is this possible? Werder stared at Garen as if he had seen a ghost. So many biological beasts. Garen calmly took a step back. Giant wolves were crawling beside him and roaring. Kill him! Boom! Almost at the same time, dozens of giant wolves soared towards Yunda at the same time. The huge stampeding sound that erupted at that moment merged into a loud noise, like countless black shadows rushing towards Yunda overwhelmingly. Each one was a level 3 giant wolf. Facing the 4 black pythons, these giant wolves fought hard and bit at them frantically. They scratched the force field protection in a few scratches and tore them into nothing but their skeletons and ate them. Werder didn't have time to think anymore and fell into the siege of the wolves crazily. Garen stood quietly on the edge of the fighting platform. Whenever a black wolf died, he would quickly add another one from the ring and rush in. His face was so calm that it made people feel chilling. He looked quietly at Werder, who was being bitten and dragged away, as if he was not in a decisive battle, let alone looking at his opponent. Although his eyes fell on Werder, his spirit was still there. But it seemed that he had drifted to nowhere. The outside world was now in complete chaos. March had already stood up, his face was ashen, his hand was hanging tightly on the button to cancel the decisive battle in front of him, but the other hand with black gloves tightly grasped the wrist he wanted to press. The arrogant man who had been holding the slave's hand before didn't know when he arrived at his side, and was grabbing his wrist with one hand with a smile on his face. Why don't you let them finish this good show? You can't see such a rare plot all the time. The corners of March's eyes were red, and she stared coldly at the arrogant man beside her. The two of them looked intimate, but there was a biting chill between them. Yiling, Joey, and others were right next to him, but no one dared to move. 2 men and women wearing silver-rimmed white clothes also held them hostage. Many people in the audience stood up, and some were already using video cameras to record this rare scene. Lively exclamations came one after another. Some people had already informed their friends, and more people poured into the auditorium around the final stage again. No. The soundproof shield on the decisive battle stage was finally removed, and a shrill scream finally came out. Wenda's force field protection finally failed to support it, and dozens of giant wolves swarmed it and tore it into pieces in an instant. For a moment, flesh and blood flew everywhere, and it was too horrible to look at. The silver-white eye cicada was finally used by him, but it only penetrated the bodies of the 4 black wolves and failed. Several black wolves pounced on it, slowed down their speed, and then bit them. Wenda and his 4 black pythons were all bitten into pieces of flesh and blood, shapeless. The battlefield was a mess, with broken clothes and flesh and blood everywhere. The wolves, however, were eating the food with gusto, lowering their heads and chewing it with gusto. Many people were so disgusted that they wanted to vomit. Garen wins, and gets 1000 points for leapfrogging the life and death battle. After the video is archived, it will be used for rental viewing, and you will get half of the cost for each viewing. A cold electronic female voice sounded in the sky. The shrouding beam of light on the decisive battle stage was finally completely removed. Garen put away the wolves, walked slowly down the duel stage, and nodded towards Princess Aine, who was sitting on the royal seat. The space ring was borrowed from Aine personally. If it hadn't been for her, this decisive battle would have been a bit troublesome. The smile on Aine's face was full of flowers, and she barely maintained the elegance of her face, but she couldn't hide the surprise in her eyes. Congratulations to your highness, princess, for meeting such a future genius. A princess from a neighboring country said with genuine envy. If members of the royal family have such a powerful genius to support them, their status and voice in the country will be greatly improved, and it is not impossible to even directly compete for the position of queen. After this battle, as long as Garen is fine, Princess Ani's status can be said to be as stable as a mountain. In the auditorium, Baya watched Garen walk off the stage with twinkling eyes. He just stood still while countless wolves around him swarmed up and easily tore his opponent into pieces. Such a fight. No. This is no longer a battle, but a killing. Unilateral killing. Too strong, Huang Mao couldn't close his mouth, and his situation suddenly reversed, leaving him completely stunned. Medium and high-level energy masters are all powerful beings with special trump cards. As expected, no one can be underestimated. Mao's face showed deep envy. No wonder, Baya whispered. What's the wonder? Huang Mao looked at his companion. Previously, he was the only one who discovered Garen's anomaly, but now he really showed his extraordinary eyesight. Although the white hair on one side was reluctant, he had to admit that Baya's vision was indeed powerful. No wonder Master Jialong Peak calls himself Black Wolf Snow Peak. It turns out that the real reason is here. He is the king of controlling black wolves. If the wolves bite him, who can be more suitable for the name Black Wolf Peak Master than him? Baya, his heart is surging. This kind of capable weapon master is what he yearns for the most. Is truly powerful enough. This kind of energy mechanic is the real energy mechanic. At the end of the decisive battle, March and the arrogant man separated. The two looked at each other coldly for a moment. March with a cold snort turned around and left. The arrogant man glanced at Garen from afar, and Garen smiled at him gratefully and nodded, which was considered a token of appreciation. Then they all exited in tacit agreement. Bernstad and Hilk came up to him with expressions of respect on their faces. Senior brother, you are so powerful. 42 black wolves. 42. Oh my god. What is that concept? Bernstad's voice was so excited that his voice shrilled. As expected of senior brother, Sieke only said one sentence, but there was so much respect in her eyes that her voice trembled a little. From being at a disadvantage at the beginning to instantly killing the opponent, the gap was so big and so fast that neither of them could adapt. Help me find out who is the person who helped stop you. This time I accept his favor. Garen tossed the space ring on his hand, which contained a large amount of financial resources that Werder carried with him. He Lang has all of them under his control, and he keeps these things that are still useful to him without destroying them. Okay, Hilk nodded. There was a lot of noise outside, and there seemed to be a lot of people gathering at the exit. Garen looked at Bernstad, who immediately reacted and explained. It's the representatives of the royal families from various countries who came immediately after your victory, as well as the heads of the Chamber of Commerce, and some senior brothers and sisters are also there, but the most important thing is Master Sang's and senior sister Reghar. Is it Eva Reghar? Garen was stunned, and suddenly remembered that this was the one who personally came to pick him up when he joined the faction. At that time, I was mainly impressed by the image of 5th senior sister Renee as an old woman, but this 3rd senior sister was not very impressive. Unexpectedly, she arrived in person as soon as possible this time. But it's normal to think about it. Although Yunda seemed to be killed very easily, he was, after all, the person in charge of the external deployment and a 5th level master. The 5th level weapon master was considered a high-level talent even by the Chixu sect, so there should be enough for this incident. The person with the right to speak will announce the specific details. Stabilize the overall situation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1003. Moreover, they have formed a deadly feud with Yu Hui and others this time. Yu Hui belongs to Yu Hui, and Wenda also belongs to Yu Hui. In this way, Yu Hui and Yu Hui are definitely on opposite sides. Garen thought so and quickly saw his senior sister Eva Reghar waiting outside. This third senior sister is still radiant, delicate, and cute, with a dress as gorgeous as that of a noble princess. Her waist is tightened in a tight-fitting red dress, and her legs are slender, giving people a tall feeling. Congratulations, you beat a veteran boss. You are worthy of being the best in Xingpai in recent years, third senior sister Iwa said with a smile. Senior sister Eva Garen gestured to the other party to get on his airship and leave together. The two boarded Garen's number 15 airship together. Bernstad stayed to deal with other matters, while Hilko was responsible for driving and setting the position after boarding the airship. Looking at the white clouds in the sky that kept moving rapidly outside the window, Eva withdrew her gaze and focused on Garen. It seems that your progress in the past few years has been very obvious. You are much stronger than when you first came from Central City. Senior sister, thank you, Garen replied. I wonder why senior sister came here this time. He did not believe that Eva came to him on a whim. Such three-hearted disciples generally do not operate in branch bases. The main elders, the base and the void battlefield are the scope of their activities. Of course there is something. Eva raised her hand and suddenly a blood-red chip card appeared. In view of your special nature and ability, the wolves and your own halo effect should be able to have a superimposed strengthening effect, right? The Combat Intelligence Department initially determined that your strength should have reached the resonance stage level 1, so it informed me. Then I will teleport directly to you and give you the qualification card of the 3 heart disciples. 3 hearts, Garen was stunned, so fast. It's not that fast. The fastest one is Carthage. It only took him 2 years to sprint from level 2 to level 5. You can't imagine his terrifying speed. The third senior sister sighed. He was beaten by the genius who was mistaken by the sect, is also the strongest disciple representative of Archixu section. Although he has just entered the 3 hearts, he is already at the top level among them. 2 years, Garen said in shock. Only those who have truly hit the bottleneck know how much effort and dedication it takes. It is already a legend that one can reach level 3 in just 2 years. Only those legendary physiques are possible. You mean, is his physique like that? Yes, it is the speed talent, and it is also the speed talent among the top geniuses. Third senior sister Eva nodded and affirmed, among the disciples of the same period, only the 6-eyed golden bird of the Longian sect can compare with him, but the 6-eyed golden bird Yanjinke is a support exchange student between other major sects and the Longian sect, and it is impossible to stay here in Kitsumi Prefecture for a long time. Therefore, in the long run, our Red Snow sect will be the force with a better future. It's really unimaginable, Garen sighed. He took the card, and the entire card melted immediately, turning into a blood-red stream of light that shot into the energy mark behind him. This is a teleportation projection card. It is not an entity in itself. As long as you have enough energy, you can form a virtual store in your energy mark, which can be directly exchanged for various resources and resources within the genre on any site in Kitsumi State. For items, of course, the premise is that you have to spend additional transmission fees and a slightly higher additional price, Eva explained. In addition, the treatment of 3 hearts is given to you in advance, mainly because you are in a 2-heart competition. You are promoted next, so you have priority in prize selection. Among the prizes in this Swafeng competition, there is something that is very suitable for you. Just as you are promoted to Sangzan, you have the right to freely choose prizes as a newly promoted disciple. I will make the decision for you. If you use this right in advance, you will definitely be satisfied. Eva smiled slightly proudly. Oh, Garen vaguely guessed what was going on. Eva flicked her backhand, and another white token appeared in her palm. The mark of energy weapons from ancient ruins, the Winter Night Wolf Pack token. It can increase the combat power according to the number. It is a perfect match for you. I have offended several senior brothers for this token. Thank you, senior sister. I will remember it, Garen replied solemnly. He is indeed very suitable for this energy weapon mark. He is now at level 4, but he still only has one energy weapon mark because the second mark has not been selected yet. To the appropriate one. And the wolf pack on winter nights is his favorite imprint. Due to ancient language translation issues, some of these things are called winter night wolves, some are called heart of the wolf pack, or the wolf order of the night, etc. But let me introduce you to the comprehensive effect. Eva softly said, throwing the token to Garen. Every additional wolf creature will increase the overall comprehensive quality by about 0.1 level. In other words, as long as you release all 30 wolves to fight together, you can achieve the theoretical goal, although the terrifying inheritance level increase can be calculated to increase by 3 levels, that is, to reach the final 7-level increase level. It is actually impossible because the inheritance level is a qualitative change rather than a simple quantitative change, so you don't have to. I wish I could achieve the effect of not falling down at level 7. If we can really achieve this, it won't fall into our hands. Garen also laughed. As long as you understand, things of that level must be in the hands of the elders. Eva nodded. Another function is that the individual wolves in the Winter Night Wolf pack have basic level 4 abilities, which means they do not have any blessings. The basic individual for amplification is the 4th level. If you can amplify and strengthen it, you can at least upgrade it to the peak of the 5th level inheritance level. In other words, the wolves you control should be able to reach the resonance level stage. As for what level I'm not sure. There are other details you can go back and test yourself. Okay, this mission is completed. Remember to treat me to dinner when you have time. No problem. Garen smiled, took the token, and watched Eva suddenly melt in front of him and quickly disappear. Obviously she didn't come in her true form, but just a projection. And just by projecting, it was actually able to transmit the tokens of the Winter Night Wolves and the permission cards of the 3 hearts. Obviously, this was the transmission function she mentioned earlier. The airship will soon arrive at Black Wolf Snow Peak. Garen throws away the token in his hand, knowing that although Yuehui has become enemies with March and others, he has also entered the same more powerful emerging power star in disguise. Card. There are gains and losses. By the way, junior brother Garen, if you encounter someone with a 3rd heart who is causing trouble for you, you can contact me directly, or you can directly contact senior sister Renee. We are all from the same lineage. In addition, this time, the 2nd heart, except you, will. In addition, there are 2 people who have also been promoted to 3 hearts. They are both Yuhui's people and old guys. One of them is March, who rushed up by relying on accumulation. Apart from Carthage, our Xingpai has also its you, and this is the treatment we have tried our best to fight for. Eva's voice came in again. I will work hard. Garen nodded seriously. He knew that it was nothing for him to enter the 4th level in 5 years, but soon after entering the 4th level, he was able to kill the veteran Werder chief of the 5th level. Although Werder was not strong in the 5th level, it was much weaker than March and others. But being able to kill him also means that his current combat effectiveness belongs to the upper level of the 5th level. Don't worry, in the entire Chixu sect, there are only a dozen or so people above you who are all at the 3 heart level. This time, senior sister Hung Guang from the Great Elder's lineage died, and the 2 junior brothers from the 3rd Elder's lineage died together with their opponents. This is why we need to add 3 places from the 2nd heart to the 3rd heart. This is purely based on combat ability. Don't let me down. Don't worry, Garen finally replied. Only then did Eva's voice completely disappear. Garen quickly disembarked the spaceship, returned to his villa at the top of Swafeng Peak, and used the computer network to check the specific permissions of the 3 hearts. Compared with the 2nd heart, the 3rd heart has the greatest authority to listen to the lectures of the real elders of the lecture hall. At the same time, the Cliff Library is also qualified to enter the 3rd level and above. There is a place where other schools' techniques and trophy books are stored. Garen had wanted to go there for a long time. The Cliff Big Library, Garen's eyes shone slightly. Maybe you can find something similar in it. He felt a little hot in his heart. If genes can be improved with potential points, then it might be possible to use potential points. But the key now is to check out the good things Werder has on hand first. He tossed the space ring on his hand. This was the one he snatched from Werder. The content inside must be what Werder carries with him. The most important things. Walking to the middle of the underground storage on the first floor of the villa, Garen gently turned on the switch of the space ring. Wow! Suddenly a lot of messy things appeared in the white open space. First of all, piled in the center is a large amount of crystal stones like a small mountain, about tens of thousands of pieces. Secondly, there are two small golden boxes on the periphery, with mysterious patterns engraved on the surface. I don't know what they are. Finally, there were some messy plant roots and pieces of dried animal meat, as well as drinking water, clothing, etc., and even some wine that seemed to be old. Garen directly put away the crystal, put it directly into the vault with his own space ring, and then picked up the two small boxes. Among the remaining items, only the wine was left, and the rest was thrown into the utility room, allowing Hillary to use computer scanning to parse out the name of the information. It just so happens that I don't have any money on hand right now, so I just happened to send so much financial sponsorship. I also got 1,000 points from the decisive battle of life and death, which can be exchanged for items. Sure enough, killing people and stealing goods is the fastest way to get rich. Garen sighed. The normal time from level 4 to level 5 is at least more than 10 years. Unless you are a genius among geniuses, with a powerful talent like Carthage, coupled with a large amount of resources to cultivate, you can quickly rush to level 5. However, Garen's own qualifications are only average, and he is considered a relatively inferior species among geniuses. He will definitely not enjoy the treatment of quickly shortening his time. It seems that I can only steadily improve my computing power and practice Jixyagong. Garen sighed in his heart. He didn't know how Ruzi and Yeg were entering a better section. How are they developing now? In 2 or 3 years. In the past, Accord had been in seclusion to attack level 5, but now it may have been successfully entered. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1004. Nagatiko Capital. A large number of airships were flying across the sky, constantly passing between the light pillars of the volcanic vents. One of the white and silver airships had 4 powerful round-hole jets at the tail. The red flames that were continuously shot out were astonishing, propelling the entire airship at an extremely fast speed. The surface of this spaceship is engraved with a white flying dragon pattern. Inside the spaceship, several young men and women wearing silver clothing with flying dragon logos on their cuffs were gathered together in front of a large round table, playing a game similar to a sandbox 3-dimensional battle. Ruiz, why don't you come over and play? A young man with a baby-faced face was playing the game in his hand while looking at a beautiful woman playing computer in the corner. Reese shook her head. Remember the last time I came here, I came with 2 friends I just met. I don't know how they are doing now. She felt a little emotional. Friend? I haven't heard you mention it yet. Are they all in different schools? The young man asked with interest. Yes. They were much better than me back then, Ruzi whispered. Then what school did they join? Tell me, the young man asked. It must be a very powerful faction, but our Long Guangliu is not bad either, a young girl who was playing the game said with a smile. Reese smiled and said nothing. Why don't you make an appointment with them this time when you have time, and let's get together and get to know each other? The young man touched his chin and suggested, how about we come out to relax and just make friends? Forget it, our main task this time is to purchase materials. If we want to play, we must complete the task first. This is our best chance to break through to level 4. After this time, it will be very difficult to find the next opportunity. It's rare. Reese shook her head. Okay then, I'll listen to you, the young man said in a good temper. Boom. In a distant mountain range, a black cave was suddenly exploded from the inside by a huge force, and a chaotic swarm of gravel and dust was blasted out. Silver starlight flew out bit by bit, converging in mid-air to form a huge nebula vortex with a diameter of more than 10 meters. Ha 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 ha. Finally a breakthrough, a black figure slowly walked out of the hole with a wild smile. Looking at his face, it was clearly Yagaduo who had entered the nebula school. His talent was much stronger than the two of Galen in the beginning, but now that he has been cultivated in the nebula of the Great Sect, he is even more at home, making breakthroughs like flying in the water. Junior brother Yagduo, we have only broken through the resonance for half a month, do we need to be so arrogant? A feminine male voice came from afar. Hey, how long did it take senior brother Quanteng to break through the resonance in half a month? Why don't you tell me, junior brother? Yagaduo sneered and transmitted the message far to the west. If it weren't for being valued by the teacher. You have stayed in the branch for so many years and you haven't seen the teacher treat you differently. Who can you blame? Yagaduo said rudely, don't be so weird. I will lead a team to the Void Battlefield Nebula 9th District in a while. I want to take action. You can try it. The voice snorted coldly, stopped talking, and fell silent. Only then did Yagduo's face gradually return to normal. Since entering Nebula, the cruel competition mechanism practiced in Nebula is almost the most difficult among all schools. Senior disciples can even squeeze the monthly income of low-level disciples. If they can't find a strong backer to protect themselves, they may be in trouble for the rest of their lives. If there is no hope, they will be sent back to retreat directly. In such an environment, the Accord struggled to climb, and it didn't even have the energy or time to go out to rest. All the time was spent on breakthroughs. He only had occasional contact with Galen Reese, and they were among the few friends he had teleported to Naga Planet. In a school like Nebula, one should never expect to have true friends, so because of this, although Garen and Reese were not as talented as him, he still did not mean to look down on them. For this rare friendship without any interests. Thinking of this, he opened the energy mark and looked at the contact panel. The portraits of Garen and Reese were both on, obviously they could contact them directly. Rise, Garen, are you there? He contacted directly from a distance through the energy mark. Accord more? Are you out? Reese was the first to answer. I heard you say you were in retreat a while ago, so I didn't dare to disturb you. How are you now? Have you broken through level 5? Yeg hesitated for a moment. In fact, he had always concealed something from the two of them. He had already broken through to level 5, and now he had broken through the resonance stage. As long as he successfully killed the guy during this outing, he would be able to get the Thunder Liquid. Go one step further and reach the full moon level. But he was afraid that the gap between the two of them would become too wide, and some things might gradually deteriorate due to the gap in status. The more dirty the environment like Nebula is, the more I cherish this kind of pure and unadulterated friendship that happens by chance. Not yet, it failed after all. Yagduo still didn't tell his true situation. It's okay, keep working hard next time, we are still young, there will always be a chance to rush over, Garen's voice rang. Yagduo, you are the most talented among the three of us. When you succeed in the future, don't forget us old friends. Forget it, I'm stuck now. Maybe you guys will overtake me all at once. No one can explain the bottleneck, Yagduo said with a chuckle. Perhaps I will have to rely on you then. I'm going to the Central City auction soon to buy some things. Maybe I'll hit level 4 this time. Ruzi felt a little uneasy. Yagduo, you are now level 4. Do you have any experience or precautions? Yeg thought for a while and reminded Ruzi of many things he had done when he broke through level 4. Garen also asked a few questions on the side, and Yagduo explained them clearly one by one. Garen, if you want to buy anything from Chixu sect, you can let me know. It will be very convenient for me to help you buy something and send it over, he mentioned kindly. Don't worry, I will never be polite when I need your help, Garen replied with a smile. Several years of contact have made the three of them have a good relationship. It can be regarded as the kind of sympathy between the same strangers on Naga planet. The sense of identity brings the three people closer and closer. By the way, I happen to need to find something. If you happen to see it, you can tell me about it. Garen thought for a moment, and there is really something he needs help with. Whatever it is, the resources I find here are absolutely top-notch, and the efficiency is amazing. Yagduo smiled. At this time, in the mid-air below the entrance of his cave, more than 10 airships and airships of different sizes have been jumping up. The surfaces of these airships are covered with a faint fifth-level light film. It is obvious that their owners are masters who have reached the fifth level. Mechanic. Figures flew out of the airship one by one, wearing boots with silver wings on their feet, allowing them to fly freely. These figures landed on the flat ground in front of the cave one by one. Congratulations to senior brother Heiyao for coming out of seclusion. All dozens of people stood together and shouted loudly and uniformly. Yag nodded more in response. These are his vassals and subordinates. In Nebula, his strength is among the best. It is common to kill people by leapfrogging his rank. His actual combat effectiveness has reached the top 10 in the division in a very short time. It can be said to be outstanding. Some of these people were those who had exploited him in the past, and were now being exploited by him in turn. Some were old fritters with limited qualifications who could not move on, and were regarded as his vassals, and some were subordinates who moved closer to the situation, as well as those whom he had forcibly conquered the defeated Energy Master. He is currently ranked 5th in Nebula Branch 81 and is one of the 3 most promising among all disciples. In addition, he was discovered to have extraordinary special talents, and his popularity was at the peak of his powers. Instructing these people to leave, Yagduo continued the conversation with Garen and others. The thing I'm looking for is called the Zion Cane, or something of the same material. Galen directly sent a picture over, along with some detailed parameters. This thing, Yagduo frowned slightly, he really wanted to see it somewhere. If you can find it, it will be a great help to me, Garen said seriously. I'll help you take a look here, and you might be able to find something through multiple channels. Reese followed suit. Thanks in advance. Don't worry, I'll give you news in a while. Yag nodded. Well, I have something to do here, so I'll stop now. Let's get together when we have time. We haven't seen each other for a long time. That's right. Since we joined the faction, the 3 of us haven't really gotten together once. Reese responded immediately, seeming a little happy. I still have some things to deal with. Maybe I have to go to the Void battlefield in about 3 years. How about I contact you all to come out and get together when I get back, Yagduo suggested. No problem. The time will come. The 2 agreed. After agreeing on a time and place, Yagduo cut off the contact. The gentleness in his eyes gradually dissipated and he looked at the group of people in front of him. He raised his hand, and suddenly a 3-dimensional light screen was released, which displayed the rotating image of the Zion Cane and related indicator information. Activate the branch's channels to find this thing. The Energy Masters below carefully recorded the pictures and characteristic information, then silently shot into their own spaceships and dispersed. Yag looked towards the west, his face turned cold. I'm waiting for you in the Void battlefield. The black light on his wrist flashed, and the whole person actually jumped away directly, leaving only a small black vortex, which disappeared in a flash. In a cave somewhere in the west, a middle-aged man with a sinister face snorted coldly and punched the stone wall hard. With a roar, large chunks of gravel flew and fell. Let you be arrogant for a little longer. Little brat.